I want to help you plan out when you can start looking at things. And the first thing we need to do is put these due dates on that calendar again. Okay? That should alleviate a bit of anxiety because you'll see just how far apart they all are. Okay? And just how much time you have to actually get them done. Right? So if we're filling this in, okay, our most upcoming thing would be the, well, thing that was due today. We don't need to put that on there because that's already done. Okay? Our next thing, right, is December 13th. We haven't even done that lab. We're doing it tomorrow. Okay? But it's due on December 13th. So we're going to put that on here. Okay. It's due on the 13th. We're actually performing it here. Okay? Now, I'll tell you right now so that you don't look at that and go, oh my God, it's only like 3 or 4 days. The lab itself takes about 5 minutes. Okay? You're going to hook a spring scale up to a rubber band and pull it to 5 different distances on a ruler and record the reading on the scale. Like, it literally takes 5 minutes to do the procedure. Okay? And the data is easy to collect. 10 newtons. 15 newtons, or whatever it reads on the scale. Okay? So it's a really easy lab to do. Then you get the rest of class to work on the lab report, which realistically shouldn't be more than about an hour's worth of work. And you're going to get close to that in class to work on it. So as long as you stay focused on it in class, you shouldn't have too much more work to do on it over the next 4 days. Now, here's the part I can only tell you about but can't really do for you. I don't know your schedule. I don't know whether you have a basketball tournament on the weekend or whether your part-time job has you working a shift from 6 to 10 on Friday. Okay? That stuff I don't know. But you can look at this and maybe set aside somewhere in those 4 days, 20 minutes to a half an hour to work on. Okay? Other things you might want to consider. I might want Mr. Coderre to look over my lab report before it's due, which means I have to have it pretty much done by the 10th. Okay? And I have to pop in the morning on the 10th, because that's when Mr. Coderre is available to help me. Okay? No.
Nice, buddy. That's
You're on January, dude.
Yeah, good job.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Okay? So, one of the ways to help us kind of deal with deadlines is to plan out when we're going to work on it. That's why I make such a big deal on those projects about the 5 marks for planning. Okay? Like in parent-teacher interviews, I was telling some of your parents, you know, like, I looked in their revision history to see when they actually worked on this, and their planning might as well have said, I'll leave it till November 28th at 10 o'clock at night, and then I'll do it all. Okay? Now, for me, and I know we work differently, but for me, having a major assignment due in like 10 hours that I had 3 weeks to work on, but because it made me anxious, I put it off till the last minute, would make me even more anxious. Okay? That's, you know, when my fight or flight response has got to kick in and go, hey, we're cooked. We have to get this done, and well, I guess sleep is secondary now. Okay? But I mean, that would have been my own fault. Okay? I let the anxiety about the assignment for 3 weeks keep me from doing it and make it worse. Okay? Because now instead of just getting it done earlier, I now have all this extra anxiety about will I even get it done. Okay? So that's kind of the purpose of this planning exercise. Okay? All right, the next thing that's going to come up for you, okay, is your energy lab. Okay? And that's going to be due on January 4th. We're actually going to do that lab here on the 13th of December. Okay? I didn't want to make it due any time around your unit exam. Okay? Which is why I made it due after Christmas. Okay? So you can have a look at your January calendar and put this on here, right? Energy lab. And I made it due on the Tuesday so that if you wanted to, you could bring it in and have me look at it on the 3rd. This is part of my plan. It's how I reduce my anxiety about how much marking I have to do. Okay? I plan out when everything is going to be due, so I know I have time to mark it that day and get it back to you the next day or even the same day. All right. So again, you can think about when you want to work on that. Okay? And that's it. We're going to have an in-class activity that we're going to do that first week. It won't be for homework because it'll be done in class. Okay? That's the last thing that you're going to have to hand in to me in terms of assignments, is that. Okay? But obviously you have 2 unit exams we need to put on here. Okay? Your Unit 4 exam is going to be here. Okay? We're going to start Unit 4 there. Unit 4 is Global Systems and Energy. It's basically a hodgepodge of things from all the units tied together. Poorly. Okay? So there's not a lot of stuff in this unit. That's actually good. Because if there's not a lot of stuff in this unit, then there's not that much to know for the unit exam. Okay? So it's a good thing. So the last unit exam, because there's not a lot of stuff to study, you should be able to study what's there very well and do well on that unit exam right before your final. It's nice to have your mark come up a bit, because obviously unit exams count for a big portion of your mark. How many of you just got anxious as soon as I said unit exams count for a big portion of your mark? Right? That's a natural reaction to that. Of course it is. Okay? All right. But we've got 2 weeks of that unit. Like I said, there's not a lot of material in it. So if you're studying a little bit each night, that can help. Okay? Rather than, I'll just wait till Mr. Coderre puts that, big fat review thing on Google Classroom and I'll just do that. Because Coderre's going to put that thing on there probably around the 12th. Doesn't give you as much time to go over it. Plus, I'm not your only class. I recognize that. I know sometimes it probably doesn't seem like it, but I recognize I'm not your only class. Probably if you got English right now, you're going to have your major writing assignment coming due somewhere in here. Okay, I'm keeping that in mind. That's why this is the last thing you'll hand in to me. Okay? I know you'll have other things coming up in your other classes. Okay, and then our Unit 3 exam, we got to go back, okay, to the 16th of December. Okay, so it is currently the 7th. I will be posting your unit exam review for you probably tomorrow or Thursday. I will be doing the unit exam review in class on Friday. Right? So at that point, you'll know all the things that you absolutely have to study. Do you have a pretty good idea of what those are already? Yeah, other than the law of conservation of energy, which we haven't gone over it with. We talked about it, but we haven't looked at it. Okay? We've gone over everything. You know you have to know graphs. You know you have to know how to do V equals D over T. You know you have to know the different types of energy. Okay? Do acceleration problems, graphing, okay, that kind of stuff. You know all of that stuff is going to be on the test. So, my question to you is, if it's Tuesday, December 7th, and your exam is here, if you spend a little bit of time each night going over those things, does that mean you'll have a lot less stress and stuff to do here? Yeah, okay, way less. But it's up to you to kind of figure out where you're going to do it. You know your schedule, okay? I'm just trying to lay out for you visually how much time you have. Okay?
Sorry, I know you said it, but what day is the review going to come out for the final?
For the final exam?
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
You didn't know?
I did not. I said for Unit 4, but I didn't say for the final exam. Because I haven't talked about that yet, because I'm trying to reduce people's anxiety by dealing with one thing at a time. Okay, so that deals with all the stuff that's about just the course content, when it's going to happen, okay, and you can look at when you're going to prepare for that. Obviously, on top of that, you're going to have some final exams. How many people have 4? Like big ones that are actually during exam week. Okay, because usually you got like phys ed or religion or something that doesn't have a major final. What's that?
Our religion teacher said that there's not a religion exam.
Right.
Yes,
Sorry, there isn't one for religion, right? And then I think your phys ed one's in class, right?
There's a phys ed.
Or whatever. Like some of your options don't, some of your option classes don't have an exam during the exam week, okay? You just have English, social, math, and science, okay? Maybe French, if you're taking that. That would be during exam week, okay? So, you probably only have 3. You probably don't have 4, okay? Because you only have 4 classes. All 4 of your classes are cores. That means that right now, this semester, you are taking either English or social, or both. Science and math, okay? Like, yeah, you're probably not doing that. You probably have some kind of option this semester. All right, so it is December 7th today. Your final exam is January 20th. Okay? That means we're only going to have, likely, 1 class day to review for the final exam in class. Okay?
Wouldn't we not have school?
Starting this day, the 19th.
Oh.
Yeah, the last day of classes is the 18th. So we'll have 1 day, that day, to do final exam review. Obviously, before that time, I will have put up a review package for the final exam. Okay, I'll probably put that up maybe a week before. Okay, but do you already know what kinds of things are going to be on your final exam? Yeah, because you have all the unit reviews for all your unit exams. Okay, it's not a secret. I'm going to test the same things, just not as much. Okay, I'm still going to want you to be able to balance chemical reactions and do mole equation calculations and write and predict chemical reactions. I'm going to want you to be able to label the parts of a cell and tell me about diffusion and osmosis, tropisms. I'm still going to want you to be able to do work energy theorem, acceleration problems, all of that kind of stuff. It's all, that's the stuff that's going to be on there. Okay? So, my suggestion would be that preparing for this day should start. Okay. It could start before that, okay, if you're really, really wanting to. But I would say you start preparing for that. And now, I do not mean that you start spending 6 hours a day preparing for final exams starting December 27th. I do not mean that. Okay? What I'm saying is, let's maybe make a list of the things that we might want to do to prepare for our final exam. And obviously that list gets more intense the closer to the exam we get. On December 27th, we don't have to sit down for 8 hours nonstop and work on chemical reactions. We don't have to do that on December 27th. Okay? So let's have a look at maybe some things that might be helpful to prepare. Okay? What are some things you usually do when you prepare for an exam?
Make a study.
Make a study guide. Okay. Sometimes you get one of those. Sometimes your teachers are nice and they give you one. Okay, what else?
Flashcards.
Okay, for some of the units.
Don't do that.
No, but I mean, you know what? For some people that really works. It doesn't work for everybody. Okay, but yeah, it's kind of like a study guide. Maybe you make some flashcards. Okay, in order to make both of these, what do you have to have organized? Right. Now, it may just be that one of your teachers gave you notes packages that you could go over. Maybe all the way along in this semester you've been highlighting in that or adding to it or whatever. Okay? I would say that's an easy job that probably only takes, half an hour to an hour, depending on, what your notes look like. Hopefully they're still just the electronic one and they haven't become some collection of papers. Okay? Because that's always people's worry, right? It always seems to happen in January. I lost my binder, or I left my binder in the back of my truck and it snowed and then the snow melted. Now my notes are all wrecked. Whatever. Like, you wouldn't believe some of the things I have heard happen to people's notes packages at the worst times. Okay? So, you've got your notes. They're already organized. Okay? All you have to do is kind of put anything else that you added together with it. Okay? And while you're organizing it, you can read through it. Okay? Now, I would say another thing after you've organized your notes and you've kind of gone through them would be to make a list of what I would call sticky points. Sticky points would be the tricky concepts. Okay? Maybe something that you struggled with. Right, so maybe you found it really hard to predict the products of a chemical reaction. Or maybe you found it really hard to tell the difference between diffusion and osmosis and how they work in a cell. Okay? Those are the things that you want to spend time on when you're preparing. Okay? Because here's the trap people often fall into when they're studying. They spend time studying the stuff they know. Why? Because it doesn't cause them anxiety. It makes them feel good. They read through it and they're like, yeah, I know this stuff. I'm awesome and I'll be just great because I really know these 5 things. Okay? Instead of the 20 things they should have been looking at. Okay? So they read through the notes in chemistry and they remember the parts of the atom and the 5 reaction types. But God help them if I asked them to predict the products of a reaction. Okay? Well, that's probably what they should have spent time on. Okay? So that's the tough part. But it makes you actually make better use of your time. Don't bother spending hours studying the stuff you already know. Okay? Study the stuff that's tougher. That sticky point list is also something you could come in and talk to me about at any point over the last 2 weeks of class. Okay? Or 2.5 weeks of class, actually. Okay? All right, what are some other things we could do? Do you have worksheet booklets? Yeah. Say yes, because you do. I know I made them. Okay? Did you do every single question in that worksheet booklet? No. If you're nodding yes, you're awesome. Okay? Since no one's nodding yes, you guys are still like pretty awesome. But yeah. Okay? You still have a few things in there that you could use. You could do, because there's a key for all of that stuff. Right? I posted the keys in Google Classroom for the naming sheets, for the reaction sheets, for the mole equation sheets. All of those have the key. Okay? And on top of that, you've got the recordings of us going through them all that you could go back to on YouTube if you wanted to. Okay? So if you couldn't remember how to do mole equation calculations, I did 4 days in a row of 4 questions a day on mole equation. Okay? You can go back and watch that. Or just come and see me and get it live. Okay? Either way. But do you have lots of time for that? You do. Okay? That's the thing you got to remember. You have lots of time, but you won't have lots of time if you do this. I don't want to do that yet. I'm anxious about the test. I don't want to do that. And then suddenly it's January 18th. That's going to be anxious. That's going to be anxiety. Big time. Okay? And it's when you get to that situation, that's when people fold. Okay? And I don't say that jokingly. That's when people collapse. Okay? That's when people have breakdowns and they have, you know, they get into a test and they just blank and they sit there and literally cry. Okay? I don't want that for you. That's why we're doing this. Okay? I don't want you to be in that situation. You're gonna be anxious. It's a test. Okay? It's no different than when you do your first job interview. You're gonna be anxious about that too. But we gotta face those things in life. Otherwise, I don't know what you'll do with your life. Okay? Not work, and then my taxes will pay for you. Okay? That's not fair. Yeah, so we got to learn how to deal with those things. Okay, and this is just one of those ways to help you do that. Okay, so you can. I mean, we kind of now have an idea of what kind of things we want to do. Okay, we also know that. Okay, in this list of things, you're also going to have your exam outline. Okay, your review package. That'll have some sample questions. Okay, stuff like that. Okay, you're gonna have all that stuff that you usually get. Those are all activities that you'll want to do in preparation for the test. Okay? Have a look at your calendar. Have a look at when's a good time to do those things. Okay? And I think you'll see there is plenty of time as long as you commit to, I'm going to do it on this day, and I'm going to do this on this day. I'm going to study, I'm going to practice naming compounds on December 29th for 10 minutes. Put it away. Okay? People get this idea that the night before they have to study for 10 hours. It's not a bad idea, but you don't have to if you've spent 15 hours over the course of a month. Okay? Because it doesn't seem as bad if you're breaking it up into 10-minute chunks. And the good thing about breaking it up into small chunks is you're more likely to remember it. If you sit down for a 10-hour session, you'll remember the first hour, the last hour, and forget the 8 in the middle. It's just how the human brain works. Okay? So spread it out. Make it in small, manageable, non-anxiety inducing chunks. Okay? And you'll feel better about it. Okay? It won't seem as overwhelming because it's easy to feel overwhelmed in mid-January, especially if you haven't been taking care of all of that stuff. Because remember, I've shown you when everything you're going to have for me is due for the rest of the semester. You may not know that yet in your other classes. Heck, I didn't know it till yesterday when I decided I wanted to do this today, and I had to figure it all out. Okay? Because I didn't have it planned that far. Okay? Most teachers don't. We kind of have to gauge where are we sitting. Okay? So, you can add to this thing if you want. You can throw this calendar away if you want. It doesn't make a difference to me at all. I just thought it might be helpful for you. Okay? So, look at your planning, look at your time, when can you get stuff done. All right. The second thing that can induce anxiety, especially about science, for a school subject. I don't know the stuff. Okay? Now, I've noticed a bit of a pattern here, okay? And I need to address it because it's going to cause you anxiety, and it has already for some of you. Okay? When we get to the unit exam, like for example the bio exam, I don't do well. Okay? Because we didn't know the material like we thought we did. You need to make sure that you're doing your work. Okay? I think there's been a lot of teamwork, is what I'll call it. It's the nice way to call it. Okay? Teamwork on labs and assignments, things like that. Guys, the purpose of the labs and assignments is not to have something to evaluate you on. Those are designed to help you learn the material in a practical way, as opposed to me standing up here just lecturing you. Okay? So if you're teaming up on assignments, you're missing some of the learning opportunities. And that comes back to bite you on a unit exam. Okay? You guys have probably noticed that most of your teachers have their unit exams and final exams pretty heavily weighted. Okay? We never used to be that. Okay? We used to have, like for me, I used to have classwork 45%. Quizzes, 15. Okay? And then what was left, okay, which was 40%, was split between the final exam and the unit exams. They weren't worth nearly as much as they are now. Okay? But what we discovered, unfortunately, especially during the pandemic, was just how much teamwork was going on. And it meant that we couldn't trust the work that was coming in to be an accurate representation of what you as an individual do. Okay? And it's not that we're discouraging you from working together. Teamwork is important. Being able to work with others is an important skill. But it doesn't reflect what you know as a mark. So, exams do, because they're the one thing you can't do as a team. Okay? Like, most of the time, you don't apply for a job as a team. Okay? Like, I mean, sometimes a company bids on something. That's kind of applying for a job as a team. But most of the time, you get your job as you not as you and your buddies. Okay, so that's why the exams are worth a lot. So make sure that you're preparing yourself for that by doing as much of it as you can. Okay, if you're working with somebody else and you're saying, okay, so you did this, that's great. Okay, yeah, I get that. If that's not honest, yeah, I get that, then ask yourself why you don't. Okay, talk to your friend about, okay, how did you do that, rather than that's easy. I'll just write down what you wrote down. Okay, that's not going to help you learn. Sure, it'll get you an okay mark on the assignment, but it doesn't mean you knew it. And I think that's maybe where there's some confusion, and that produces anxiety, because then when you get to the test and you look at the question, like, I don't know how to do this. When did I do this? It's because you didn't. Okay, so make sure you're doing your own stuff as well. Okay, at least contributing a lot to it. Because I can't really stop you from doing that, and I don't really want to. I think it's important that you know how to work with others. Just make sure that you're getting what you need to get out of those assignments. They're not so much about the mark. They're about helping you learn the material. Okay. All right, does that make sense to everybody? Okay, I don't know if that helps or not. It's the first time I've ever done anything like this. But it occurred to me on Friday that maybe this is something I should look at.
For like the morning session of the exams,
Yep.
when does that start and when does it end?
Okay, good question. Morning exam sessions start at 9 and run until 11, unless your teacher has told you your exam is longer. Okay, my exam is 2 hours. Okay, now that means that you need to be at the school for at least, at the very latest, 8:45. They will open the doors to the exam writing rooms at 8:45, the individual classrooms. You'd be expected to come in, surrender your phone, okay, all of that kind of stuff, so that all you have with you is what you need for the exam. Okay, put your name on the test, get your instructions. Usually we get you started a couple minutes early, maybe 5 minutes early, something like that. Okay, but be here for 8:45. Okay. And then for the afternoon exams, they start at 1, same thing. Be here 15 minutes early. Be here at 12:45. That's when the doors to the exam room will open. And they'll run till 3.
So for the buses, do they drop us off here at like 8:20?
The buses don't change. Yeah, so bus arrivals and departures do not change during the exam time, because they also drop kids off at other schools. So yeah, the bus schedule won't change for us for exams. So if you normally take the bus, you're going to arrive here very early.
And
Okay.
then, like, if you have a morning exam and you take the bus, would you have to wait until like 3 to get home?
If your only way home is the bus,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
You can always call for a ride. You don't have to stay here. In fact, we encourage you to get lost after your exam. Okay. Okay. And the reason for that is that it's very distracting now that we're writing exams in the classrooms to have people in the school.
Yeah, no, I was.
Yeah, no, so, yeah, it's a good question though. Yeah, if you can get home after your exam, you don't have an afternoon one, go home. If you don't have to be here first thing in the morning, you only have an afternoon exam, find a ride here, okay, later on in the day.
For exams, do you leave the classroom when you're done your exam, or do you wait for the entire 2-hour period?
You do not have to wait for the entire 2-hour period, but you must remain in the exam for 1 hour. Okay? Something else to note, okay, so you have to stay in the exam for 1 hour. You cannot enter the exam after the first hour. Okay? Because sometimes people show up late. Okay? If you show up at 10:05, you get to do this all over again. Okay? Because we can't allow someone to come into the exam after someone could have left it. It's an exam security thing. Okay? So you have to be here on time. Okay? And we have had that happen. Right? Now, I would not want to be showing up for my 2-hour-long exam any later than 8:45. Okay? I would not want to be walking in here 9:45 and go, I'm going to write Mr. Coderre's 2-hour exam that should take the average person about 1 hour and 40 minutes to write now, when I have 1 hour and 15 left to do it. That would be stressful. Okay? Very stressful. I would say I hope that extra 45 minutes of sleep felt really good. Because taking Science 10 again won't. Right? And you have to write the final. Okay? If you don't write the final, the course is incomplete.
So if you fail your exam but don't fail the
pass the class.
So what's the fail mark? 50?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there's, yeah, 50.
Yeah.
Okay, now, I mean, no, right now you guys are like, you're focusing on the doom and gloom stuff, okay? You don't have to worry about how bad can I do and still, but don't go into the depth of that, okay? Like, everyone always asks that, like during that last week, what mark do I have to get to pass? The best you can do, like, I'm never gonna, like, I mean, yeah, sure, I can figure that out mathematically for you, no problem, but I'm not gonna do it, okay? I want you to study and perform well. I don't want you to, well, check that box just so I pass. It's not cool.
When you say like take it again, is that like next semester? Or
Yeah, or next year. Yeah. Yeah. Or you get credit for a lower stream. Sometimes they'll allow that. Yeah. That's not going to happen for you guys. Okay? You're aware. Count question.
Do we get like the AP off? Because like,
No, because I haven't assessed in the AP material.
yeah.
I haven't even taught it.
Yeah.
Each section.
Yeah. I only have to bump if I actually teach and assess the AP material. I've done neither. So right now, this is the mark you have if you're in my period 4 class. Your mark would be no different. You guys have done nothing different than my period 4 class. Okay. Any other questions?
Just a bunch of borrow from my calendar.
Yes, it's right over there.
Awesome.
Are all the AP classes like not doing AP or?
I can't speak for the, I mean, all the science ones,
Yeah.
they're all the same. Yeah. So every other science 10 AP class is doing what I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Then, why don't you see if you can do this work energy theorem question as we switch gears back to physics. Okay?